In this module, we're going to take a look at the writing process. We'll present an overall picture of the writing process, which is comprised of 4 parts: planning, drafting, revising, and editing. We're not going to go into too much detail here as we will in the rest of the modules, but we want to give you an idea of what the writing process is all about and what you'll be doing for the rest of the modules.
Alright, so we're going to talk about the writing process. It's really important to take a look at the big picture so that as we go throughout this course, you're able to see kind of what you're heading toward and what you want to end up creating at the end. Of course, the ultimate goal is that you write an essay that you can do really well on the test. Let's start with the writing process, and you can kind of see how that essay is going to evolve and come about throughout the process. So there are 4 parts of the writing process: planning, drafting, revising, and editing. Now, planning and drafting, they kind of go together in the sense that they're what you want to say, and revising and editing deal with how can you say it better and have it be communicated effectively to a reader. So each one of these is very important, and you really can't go to the next step without doing the one before it. So it is kind of sequential in that regard, that you have to do one before you can do the other. Planning is really important. If you were going on a road trip, you wouldn't just jump in the car and say, let me drive 3,000 miles. You would actually plan it out, have a map or a GPS or something telling you where you're going. So planning is kind of the same thing. You want to come up with and explore ideas for your essay. And there are lots of ways to do it. You can list, you can cluster. Talking it out works for me. Asking questions, outlining. Free writing is another way. So there are a lot of ways that you can jump in and say, I want to explore a topic. The one thing I'll tell you about free writing is if you do free write, that's where you sit down and you just start writing the essay. It is a very effective way to write, to get ideas and explore ideas. But it's not an essay when you're done. You can't turn that in and expect to get a great grade in your English class or a good score on the test. So free writing is a way of planning, but it's not the end of the process. It's just the first step. After you come up with a topic, you have to decide on your focus, and then you have to come up with a thesis. In the next PowerPoint, we're going to take a look at how do I develop a thesis and what is a thesis and all those things. So you can see from Calvin and Hobbes on the side here where one of them's waiting for inspiration because he has no ideas for the story. And he says you just can't turn on creativity like a faucet. You have to be in the right mood. There is some truth to that, but in the same sense, we have to be able to really get into an idea and figure out, hey, this is the topic I want to write about, and then how to turn that into a thesis and then into a good essay, an idea for an essay. Drafting, you probably know this from the test. So the essay for the test follow a format. You're going to have an introduction, 3 body paragraphs, conclusion. Your introduction, you want to contain the thesis and a hook to get the reader into the essay. And again, there'll be a separate PowerPoint for introductions, a separate one for body paragraphs, and a separate one for conclusions to really go into what each of those paragraphs do, and more importantly, how to formulate those paragraphs. So remember, we're just doing an overview here. Revising. After you finish the draft of your essay, then we have to start on revision. Now, revision is actually it comes from the Latin word revide, which means to see again. So we're going to be looking at the paper again in the big picture, trying to see if it's well organized. Does it have effective transitions? Does it get what I want to say? Is it in the correct order? Is it understandable? Those types of things. So that's the big picture stuff. And then the editing. That's where we involve a lot of different things: grammar, word choice, punctuation, spelling. This is what people notice as you can see from the picture. These are very important parts to make sure that people have a good impression of what we did. It really does make it look polished. So that's the writing process. Remember, it's 4 parts, and those 4 parts are planning, drafting, revising, and editing. We're going to go through those as we write the essay, and as we go throughout this course, those are going to become some big issues and some big things to look at.